What is on top of the deck? What is on top of the deck? Oh, it's Lightning Helix! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Welcome to Hunt the Week.
Hello everyone and welcome into the show. Welcome in all you rats, all you fairies, all of you food tokens, and all of you roll tokens. Lots of tokens are coming in this week. Hello everyone and welcome into the show. Come on in, have a seat, and get ready because we're going to be talking some Magic for the next little bit. This is Hunt the Week. It is a weekly Magic the Gathering podcast about the Sealed Arena Gauntlet League. And I am your host with the most, your Don John DeMarco, your Goku or Go Home. I am a 3-time top 8er. I am a 2-time league winner. And 1 time I lost to Adam Wisma in a feature match. That's right. Go check out my feature match from Monday. Check out Adam's crazy mythic enchantment that he cast against me again and again. And watch me struggle as I did to survive for as long as I could. We are in Wilds of Eldraine League. That's right. Week 1 is wrapping up, and we're getting ready for Week 2. We got a lot to talk about. We got things to discuss, so let's go ahead and know our role.
And I quote, "You know your damn role, and shut your damn mouth."
As I record, it is 12:51. A little early record this week, at least earlier in the day from when I normally record. This is your Wilds of Eldraine Top 8 Wyatt C. Hot Dolphin 5-0. The only 5-0 of the week so far. I think it's the only one that can be 5-0. Yeah, everyone else has got at least one loss. So Wyatt, who has been a newer player, off to a really hot start. Damian S. Buttcrack Magic 4-1. Jack H. Rakic 4-1. Steve T. Strout 4-1. Pierre Marc PM Duguay 4-1. Chris Y. York on Games, the Lore Hold Master himself, 4-1. Juan Q, 4-1. And John P. Goku or Go Home, 4-1. I'll say right now, the 4-1s go down to 17th place. So really, you got 17 people in second and Wyatt in first. There's just a lot of 4-1s. I was looking at it earlier today and I was like, wow. Look at everyone who went 4-1. There's 16 of them. That's a lot. That's a lot of 4-1s. And I'm one of them. I'm doing all right. So my deck is Abzan stuff with some white removal thrown in there. And then just lots of bargainy cards and enchantments and cards that, care about enchantments coming into the battlefield. Enchantments going away. Lots of stuff to bargain. Fairly aggressive. Try to get an early start. I've got some good card draw in there, some top end, and some removal. But I think the real question this week is, what punishment pack do you go? And this is the talk of the town, right? This is the hubba-balub. This is what all the kids are talking about at school at the water cooler. Everyone's saying, do I go WOE or do I go Mom? And I think it's a really tough choice. I talked to our guest today, Jeremy E., about it. But it depends, right? It depends on what you're trying to do, and frankly, it just depends on what you open, because I've seen good packs in both, and I've seen bad packs in both. I took one pack this week. It was a WOE pack, because, again, I've got this whole bargain enchantment synergy. I kind of want to, give myself more cards for that, but then you still have that in Mom. There's lots of incubate tokens. There's enchantments that make incubate tokens. A lot of the colors are very strong in Mom. You got good fixing, good rares, bonus sheet that's actually good. I think the bonus sheet in WOE is actually pretty poor. There's more misses than hits. So I don't know. We're seeing a lot of people open up Mom packs. A lot of people still opening up WOE. And I also don't think it matters when you switch, right? Like, I think you can go all Mom. I think you could go 5-5. I think you could go all WOE. I think it's going to be really interesting to see where this takes us. Because WOE is kind of a fast format. My concern is that stuff in Mom is just a little too slow. Making these incubate tokens, paying 2 to flip them up. When WOE seems to be like, attack, getting all my enchantment stuff going and get all this value real quick. But if Mom can slow them down, Mom might have a chance. So figure out what kind of punishment pack you want to go. Maybe you're like Zeke and you go bro and hit a portal of Phyrexia. What the heck, Zeke? And, so there's a lot going out there in Wilds of Eldraine. I hope you're having a good league so far and a good week 1 as we get ready for week 2. And we've got the Decathlon Finals. 10 people that won the Decathlons made it into a final bracket for Ultimate Domination. You got Raphael F. Prudent, Adam S. Wisma, Steve T. Strout, Miranda Black Canary, Johnny M. Johnny, Zach C. Zach Carr, John P. Goku or Go Home, Oscar Aussie Tubby, Richard K. Preacher, and Damien S. Butt Crack Magic. A lot of the names that you hear, these are the names of the server, right? Good players. And we're all battling it out. I'm in there, but I will say my deck is not what it used to be. My starting pool was very good, and the catch of this tournament is you lose your starting pool. So we'll see how it goes. I still got some bangers in there, but it's not what it was. That's what I'll say. It's not what it was, and hopefully everyone else is feeling that same kind of struggle, because I think I need it. But hey, I got a bye in the first round for doing all right, and I've loved the Chaos Decathlon, so take a peek at that. Let's see who takes that thing home. And our next guest has taken a lot home, a lot of wins, some prizes, a league winner. So please join me for the celebration.
Where once were contenders, now are befrienders. Let's celebrate lasses, celebrate lasses, celebrate lasses, celebrate lasses.
That's right. This week we are celebrating with Jeremy E., a.k.a. Lord Goyf, a favorite of mine to get on the show. Jeremy's got lots of great stories. He's a great player. He's going to give us some great insight into what he thinks he's going on with WoE and whether he thinks you should take Mom or Wilds of Eldraine. So let's go ahead and listen to my interview with Jeremy now. Everyone, join me as we begin the celebration this week with the one, the only, Jeremy E. Lord Goyf. Welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me on again.
Hey, you keep coming on and telling me great stories about the past and Magic, and I'll keep having you on.
Always. I'm not quite out of old stories yet, although it's starting to get into ones that are a lot of inside jokes where it's like, well, no, I don't understand that.
Well, the good news is we've been going for so long now, you can start just retelling the same stories. And,
or start telling like, it was Zendikar League in 2020 and Marina Gauntlet League. We didn't come with that, man.
No one saw it coming.
That's right. Or, stories from previous appearances on this podcast.
One time I came on the podcast and...
That's right.
Well, Jeremy, we are in week 1 as I record of WoE, Wilds over Eldraine, or as we're saying before we started, the Blossom. WoE.
Whoa.
Joey
The
Lawrence.
oldsters will get that one.
How are you liking it? How is it going? How does it feel? How's the pool? What's going on?
It feels pretty good. I wasn't the biggest fan of Lord of the Rings. Like the flavor was great in that set, but the gameplay was not my favorite.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so far I'm liking it. Like I like Eldraine as a location. Like the flavor of it is great. I think they really did a great job with the flavor of that the first time around with that like intro video with the whole gingerbread people.
Oh, so
that.
cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
And so it's great to return there. I'm a little worried that the format won't have legs. Like it feels like, like Mom, it felt like March Machines feel like it had so much replayability. Like it's one of my sets in the last couple of years for sure. And so I worry that the new Eldraine, it'll kind of run out of gas. That's the problem with aggro formats is they're really fun at the time, but it feels like quite an aggro format. And so I worry we're going to run out of juice in a couple of weeks here, but we'll see. For now, I'm liking it.
Yeah, we're still early, right? Like within the first week, so it's like it's new and it's fresh, and I'm liking it. But I also just had some like back-to-back wins, and I wasn't liking it before I had those draft wins.
Yeah, it's
so
funny how that works, huh?
Yeah, it's like I just trophied twice. Yeah, you know what? Maybe this is a good format.
It's skill testing. Skill testing when you win, and too high variance when you lose, right?
Right. So you're 1 and 2. Going into the week, yeah. How are you feeling about your games, your deck? How's that going?
Pretty good. I cracked a Gruff triplets in my opening pool, which seems like, one of
Yeah.
the top cards in the set for sure. Just grody.
Not a fun card to play against. I
No,
can tell you.
hard to answer, and especially if you can get some instant bargain later. If they try to like
Yeah.
burn one, you just like bargain a token and pump the
Yeah.
team. Like that's gross.
Yeah.
The problem is that my deck doesn't really have a clear direction yet. I have 3 of that. Gosh, I'm blanking on the name. The 2-mana enchantment where you draw a card when it comes out, and then you draw a card for every 5 spell, 5+ spell.
Sure.
It's like the blue-green theme. And so I built a blue-green deck that had the most big spells. And I do have a bit of ramp and fixing, but
Yeah.
it's still clunky. But yeah, I have 3 of those things. So like that's definitely some big long-term gain, but it's hard to get to the long-term even in long game, even in week 1, because it's just a format that punishes you for missing turns.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I played a practice game against Cody today, and he has a Tali, and we're trying to figure out like, man, a Tali's so good, but it's slow. Like it's slow, and also like the cards that you're stealing from people, like they're not great. Like everything is so little and like dinky.
Would you like a rat or a bigger rat?
Yeah, right. It's like that card's so based on how good your opponent's deck is, and it's not that it's not underpowered. It's just lots of little guys, lots of quick actions, and it's
even the triplets that we mentioned. I mean, they're 3 guys. That's not one good card.
Yeah, right.
Immune to most targeted removal.
And I'm enjoying the format, and we're gonna see how it goes because, like you, I'm a big Eldraine fan. I loved last time we were there. I keep looking at those packs, like, oh, I'd love to go back to those Eldraine packs, but it's just not gonna work. I can't do it. I don't have the heart.
Yes, and I mean, I also worry, and this is something unique to our league, where because of how high powered sets are now, like by the time we get to week 4, week 5, week 6, like it's so high powered, and
yeah,
Dirtle will take over, maybe so there's still a little bit of question there. I think Dan A predicted like 6 out of 8 green black decks in the top 8 or something like that.
I believe it.
That's a good bet.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's a kind of a larger problem of like with modern Magic sets, is 6-week leagues with all those punish packs the right format. But we'll keep trying and see. We got an awesome league committee coming up with great ideas and cool new variants that keeps even bad formats fun. So
yeah, we'll see how it goes on. And there's enough people out there taking mom packs that this is gonna feel like a half mom league for a while. Like there's people going
like
off
that little meta. That's a fun one. Like we'll see where that heads. I'm on WoE so far. That's one of the questions coming later, but
it's coming up, and I don't want to go
early.
deep on it. I'm invested in that question.
Yeah.
So you know what? Let's just go there. We asked the league a ton of questions. Jeremy has been on the show a lot, so we don't need to mess around too much. Raphael wants to know, mom or woe. I'm gonna preface this also with, I don't know what I'm taking yet, and I was kind of holding off on my games till I knew. I've played 2 games today. I'm 2-0, so I still haven't had to make the choice.
First world problems.
It's right, and I don't know. The woe packs don't seem great. The mom packs seem some of them seem really good. Like, but once you get enough of them, who knows? What are your thoughts on this? Because there's a lot of people going mom. There's a lot of mom out there.
Yeah, it's a hard one. And I definitely reserve the right to change my mind, reserve the right to get smarter, as I sometimes say at work. It's hard because like it's not like back in 1, which I did not like, but it was a very parasitic mechanic where it's like in fact it's like you need a critical math, and we saw that in Player of the Year too, where your deck was half 1. It's like, well, these infect cards are kind of garbage. And so, but it's not that for WoE, and so it's interesting because there's maybe a little bit where you want to have a lot of tokens to bargain or whatever for some of the big flashy stuff. But like I think every set has at least some amount, at least artifacts and enchantments you can chuck. And so I don't know how relevant this whole bargain question even is by middle of the league, later part of the league. And yeah, from a pure power level, I think the bonus sheet in Mom is a little better than the bonus sheet in WoE, because the bonus, there's a lot of garbage enchantments out there.
I've been really disappointed by I remember before we came in looking at like parallel lives and doubling season and being like, man, these cards are so powerful. And now it's like, yeah, okay, those don't make a week 1 deck, like
Although I hope there's a necro deck by the end. It'll take me back to my old days.
Oh.
Maybe that's a story for later.
Yeah, it's like even the good ones like Necro, like they're pretty sketchy, like
Yeah, you need to bargain it basically.
yeah.
Which gives you a nice out. Necro in like a normal limited format is like, oh, that's dicey.
Yeah.
But yeah, with bargain, I think it's a little less dangerous. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm on WoE so far, but I have a feeling that I could be swayed. I'm only 2 packs in, but
so I am on like I'm all in a bargain deck. Like that's my thing. I am bargaining. And at first I thought, well, I gotta stick with WoE for bargain stuff. And I was looking at Mom, and that's not true. Like Mom has the incubate tokens, Mom has enchantments that make incubate tokens. Like there's a ton of bargain stuff in Mom. Which really makes me like, that makes my decision so much harder. Where it's like, I could still do it, but it's like I don't know. But then like staying in set is usually strong, and like I'll miss out on bargain payoffs, or if I do something like that. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet.
Yeah, it's very close. And if it was something like WoE or One, let's say One was the next, it'd be easy because I just hate One so much. It's like even if it's mechanically correct, like the best EV or whatever, it's like no, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't want to play One at all.
Not for maximizing a spreadsheet.
And like this also could be one of those sets where it's like WoE's really too aggressive and not super fun after a couple weeks, and you're gonna wish you went Mom so that you didn't really have to play it as much. Like it could be one of those. It's hard to tell because we're so early into it.
Yeah, I'm interested in following that for sure. I definitely don't have I'm not married to my WoE picks so far.
Well, Cody Race would like to know, what's your favorite dinosaur?
That's an easy one. It's Triceratops, and that has been my opinion since 1982.
Ooh. Was there something that happened in 1982 and you were like, this?
I think it was just like the coolest dinosaur toy I had when I was 4. And I was thinking that 4-year-old me would be pretty thrilled that one of my nicknames now as 45-year-old me is Dino. And it's like, oh, that's awesome. You're like some like cool future dino. Way to go, buddy.
Cody would also like to know why the switch from USA to Canada.
Yeah, that's a fun one. So it's mostly all in jest, but as a little bit of background, I think maybe Canadians listening will understand a little bit better, because I think there's a few pairings in the world where there's like 2 countries are associated together, and there's the big brother and the little brother in terms of size. And so like if you call a New Zealander or a Kiwi an Australian, or if you call like a Scot a Brit, and you say, "Oh, you're English, right?" Yeah, they'll get pissed off. And it's kind of like that for Canadians, whereas like we're used to getting called Americans all the time, and it just kind of bristles a bit. But we're polite, so we're not allowed to say anything. And so I think if it was just like listing on the spreadsheet, I probably wouldn't care. But when we started to get into this, like, oh, like how are different countries doing for top 8s and for league wins and all that? Like, no, I can't plant my flag with America. I'm sorry. I've been here, 17 years now. But I'm still, I got to represent the motherland.
No, that's fair. That's fair. We all come from somewhere, and Jeremy likes to, show that off with the rest of you dang Canadians.
Yeah, I'm still not a citizen here yet. I should probably get around to that. But
well, true. You're not 17 years.
No, and in fact, I should probably, maybe I could vote in the next election.
Jeremy.
But
it
took a long time to get my green card. But yeah, that's I just kind of been lazy. And
one more from Cody. What's your least favorite set? You've played in a bunch as a
almost all of them.
Like, what's your least favorite?
It's actually it's close between my very first set, which was Fallen Empires.
Okay, I've heard bad things.
Yeah, and Homelands, also bad things. So even back then, in like 1995, 1996, they were considered bad and terrible, even back then. And in the context of most Magic cards are bad and terrible. And like in fact, even back then, what they then called Type 2, which evolved into now called Standard, they introduced a rule for tournament decks that you had to have at least 5 from every standard legal set. And the scuttlebutt was so they could sell Fallen Empires and Homelands cards that weren't otherwise selling. Okay. And so basically, everyone hated it, and nobody would play with the cards unless forced to, other than him to Turak was probably a notable exception. And so, yeah, basically people were forced to play all these terrible cards, like Serrated Arrows, I think, from Homelands.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
played that. But they're like, and the Pump Knights were the other ones from Fallen Empires that everybody played. Everybody played black, mostly for him to direct. So yeah, so like I really did not much care for those sets, even though I was starting with it. So I bought lots of revised, and I love
Yeah.
that. And then I was like, oh, and I can buy these expansions that come in 8-card packs for some reason, and they're all awful. Like even back then, as I'm super jazzed about buying Magic cards, but I was like, yeah, I'm just going to stick to buying revised, which is probably a good move.
There you go.
So yeah, it gives me an appreciation for modern sets, even ones I don't like comparing one to Fallen Empire. It's like, yeah, it's not that bad.
whenever I go back and like play any of those old cards or see those packs, I'm like, these cards are just
Stinkers, yeah. And even and I know there's an art question coming up, but like even the art of the old card, like there's a few, but like a lot of them are just like, okay, Magic was just starting out, and they just had. I heard they had a lot of artists that were like friends or relatives of the original like designers of Magic.
Oh,
like,
sure.
like Richard Garfield's aunt drew Stasis or something like that. And so, but it shows like now it's like you get the best artists in that whole fantasy realm making Magic cards, and we're a bit spoiled now how awesome the art is. Anyway, long sidebar. That's what I do.
Miranda, the Great Watcher, would like to know what are some of the most, or what's one of your most memorable moments from your pro days?
All right, so this kind of cues up a story. I'll try to keep it brief because I think we might have another story towards the end. But this is my my wheelhouse. So one problem is I don't remember if I told this story already. It's a problem with having so many stories as you retell them. So this one is about playing against a Japanese team in Pro Tour Boston.
Okay.
All right. So John doesn't seem like he remembers this.
I don't know that. I'm not sure about it yet, but
okay.
I don't think so.
So quick background. This was a team limited Pro Tour. We qualified via GP Philly. That's a whole other story, but I'll skip that one for now. We finished 8th at that GP. It was teams. Only the top 4 teams were invited, but it passed down, and there was like all pro teams in the top 4. And so it passed all the way to 8th, which was great. We were thrilled. We won some money at that GP, finishing 8th. I think like $400 each or something.
Nice.
We were all stoked. It was a road trip down there, and that was all fun too. And so anyway, we qualified the Pro Tour Boston, and we drove out there from Toronto, which is a pretty solid drive. It was like a 10-hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was fun in and of itself. Like a lot of the old Magic stories, like the Magic is fun memories, but mostly it's like the fun times with friends and these road trips, and being young and without responsibility. It was also fun now in hindsight. So we get out there. Day 1 was team sealed. We did pretty well. It's the format. Team sealed is there's teams of 3. You open, I want to say like about 2 sealed pools and split it among 3 people.
Yeah.
So you have to make 3 40-card decks, and you sit in a row. 8 A, B, C. So I was the B. I was the anchor.
Yeah.
And you can't change you have to register each person's deck and sideboard, so you can't trade in between or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's Pro Tour, not pre-release. And so the first day was sealed. I think we finished 5-2, if I remember correctly. So
nice.
So we qualified for day 2. We lost the first one of day 2, round 8. And then round 9, we were paired against a Japanese team. And they were a lot of fun to play. And we actually had the Wizards used to have a lot more coverage of Pro Tours. So this is the golden era. It was called Sideboard, for those who remember the old days. Japanese sideboard. So there's a Japanese version of the coverage website, and they had the Japanese tournament reporters covering it and writing it down and everything. So the way the draft worked, again, I'll try to be brief. Rochester. So Team Rochester means you go. It's basically like if people do fantasy sports, you go like ABC, CBA, and then it wheels and you go back around.
Sure.
And so it's all face up. So you know everything in everybody's deck. and you know who you're playing. So you're playing the person across from me. So I know that I'm playing this guy across from me. He's getting all these big splashy cards that are like 8 mana, like OG Chroma, which was the flying, all the other abilities, pro black, pro red, haste, whatever. He had Decree of Pain was also in there.
Oh no.
And so he's getting all these expensive cards, and my draft is not going very well. Like my teammates are doing okay, but I'm not doing great. And then I have the great idea to start drafting land destruction, because there's land destruction back then. And these are janky, terrible cards. There's a card called Arc of Blight. Look it up later. And so I started drafting land destruction cards. And first it's kind of confusing my opponents. And then they're just like, oh, what do we do about this? Because like all of his big spells cost like 8.
Yeah.
So I end up drafting all these land destruction spells, and I end up winning the game because I just keep them on like 4 mana the whole game.
Oh my god!
Land screwed with my janky out there strategy, and the cherry on top was afterwards. We knew that there was coverage from this Japanese coverage team, and so we go to the site, and it's all in Japanese, so we can't read any of it. Yeah. But all the card names are in English, and so it says like Arc of Blight and like 5 exclamation marks. And so we're like, yes, we impressed the Japanese. So it was a great moment, and we ended up finishing 40th at Pro Tour, which was just out of the money. It's top 32 got money, and we lost on tiebreakers, but it was a fun memory, that whole event, and getting creative with the land destruction.
So after that opponent, did you have to play any more matches with that deck? Were you like stuck with a land destruction?
No, each round is a new draft. So every single round you do a 3 versus 3 Team Rochester draft. So the rounds took forever, because the draft took, say 40 minutes, and then the round takes an hour. And so I think there was only 5 rounds on day 2, and then cut to top 8 or top 4 maybe even on day 3, which we didn't make, of course. But it basically you have to do a team draft every single round on day 2. And it was glorious because we actually practiced a whole bunch because we knew it was coming. And the only other aspect I should add is for some reason at that time, I think they've since changed it, you weren't allowed any verbal communication. So you had to do all these little hand signals and like point at the back of the magic card, like blue, black, blue, black.
Oh my God.
And do all this, like come up with all these things about, and it was dumb, honestly. But you had to practice that too, because like the teams who were better at that did better about, okay, I know what my teammates are thinking.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Interesting.
Good memories.
And a good segue from Lotta. Is Limited better or worse than 20 years ago? Because
I love this question.
Pretty different.
Yeah. So I really thought about this one, and I thought, one of the reasons this is a tricky question is because, and this is where I get a little philosophical. We think we're being objective and comparing formats and all that, but a lot of the times when you think back in time, you're actually also comparing like who you were back then. And so like 20 years ago, I was a single guy. I had all this time. I had a great time with my friends. Just a very different life. Not that I don't like my life now. It's just very different.
Sure.
And so when I think back, like, oh man, remember how good that was? And it's like, no, you're remembering the fun times. It's not actually, Onslaught draft was the best draft ever made or anything, even though I did like it. And so I think if I try to be objective, I think things have gotten better over 20 years. They've gotten way better at designing really interesting sets for Magic, for drafting, for Limited. But there's an asterisk. I insert a little old man yells at clouds. The thing I miss is that back then it felt like you were trying to cobble together strategies based on semi-related cards. So you had to be really creative in how you got to victory and like finding creative ways to use cards that were a little iffy. Whereas now it feels like things A are so high powered and B are just on rails. Like it's like, okay, this is the deck that does the bargain thing. This is the deck that does the aura thing. And there's not enough divergence from that theme to allow as much creativity. And so while overall I feel it's better, I do kind of miss that, kind of MacGyver together a deck out of this, bucket of parts.
Yeah, because Magic's a complicated game, but I do feel like it is a lot simpler now than it used to be.
Right. Yeah, maybe the gameplay is harder because cards are so complex. I took my son to a pre-release last weekend for his first one, which was a lot of fun. And like just trying to explain like all the interactions going on. Like it was Two-Headed Giant, so thankfully I got to mostly play for him. But
nice.
I tried to let him make his own choices. But like, oh yeah, you didn't understand this arcane interaction between these 10 permanents on the board.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It's brutal for newcomer. I can't imagine getting into like semi-competitive Magic as a brand new Magic player now. It sounds daunting.
I don't know.
But
That's why I don't understand how people like just get into Commander, because Commander is insanely complicated. And there'll be people like, yeah, I just played Commander. I just started picking it up. I'm like, how is that the format that you picked? Like, there's insane things people do in that format.
yeah, totally. But Arena I think helps. Like you can get way more reps in. I used to be
Yeah.
able to play like 100 games of Magic in a year, and now that's a good weekend.
Yeah. Anybody I know that's like, yeah, I think I'm thinking about getting into Magic. I'm like, just get on Arena and play
Yeah.
Arena for a while. Like,
they'll start to figure it out.
yeah, you'll know if you
Take
like
your
it or
lumps.
not.
Might be a little spendy, but
yeah, exactly. As soon as you're like, well, you'll have to spend some money. They're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm like, yeah, well, welcome to the club, buddy.
yeah, or grind out all those quests or whatever and be patient.
Wyatt C. Hot Dolphin, who by the way is the only 5-0 right now.
Wow, Wyatt.
Yeah, Wyatt, who's like a newer player and like great start, Wyatt.
Nice job.
Wyatt would like
approval.
Yeah, Wyatt's just crushing. Wyatt would like to know, who is your favorite Magic the Gathering artist?
This was a tough one for me. I think back in the day, we had a lot of artists we specifically didn't like, or we'd argue about who was a bad artist because there's a lot to choose from in the old days. But like in terms of fondness, I remember at the first Canadian Nationals I went to, I tried to grind in. This would have been 1996, I think. And I brought Melissa Benson was there signing cards, and so I got like the original, well, revised Shivan Dragon signed by her. So I have some fond memories there of that art, even though it's like objectively not that good. But it's Shivan Dragon. It's a classic.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many from back then that like Drew Tucker is one. People know our old art. He did Ashes to Ashes and Dan Dan. And Ashes to Ashes just kind of looks like raisins and oatmeal or something. It's all very abstract.
Sure.
So we would like to complain about old art, but like I don't think there's one artist I've really latched onto. And there's been so many, and I think I shortcut cards as just what they are, and then I forget to look at the art sometimes, especially on Arena. It's easy to skip over the art. So yeah, so I don't think I have a clear favorite, but in terms of nostalgia, probably like Melissa Benson.
There you go, Melissa Benson. Every time I start to get really into an artist, they turn out to be a really bad person, and
I know. I was going to say that too. Like Therese Nielsen, I like Therese Nielsen. Oh, she's a horrible human being.
I've got some expeditions signed by Noah Bradley that I met at a GP. Oh, that was a bad idea. Then I got really into Seb McKinnon for a while, and he was pretty problematic for a little while.
The Invoke Prejudice guy, who's like
literal
Nazi.
Great. The only person that I've met and like talked to so far that I think is okay is Titus Lutner. I met at a GP.
Okay.
But at the same time, I haven't seen any of his work on a Magic card in a while, I think. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of new people coming in all the time, and I have a hard time following them because a lot of their styles are either so similar that I can't even really tell like who's there's stuff where I'm like, oh, is that Seb? And I'm like, oh no, this isn't Seb, but it kind of looks like a Seb, I don't know.
Yeah,
then artists that Cody and Adam are always posting. I don't remember who it is, but Cody said on the show when he was on. They're
newer artists. I saw some. Those look great. So I agree with that one.
It's time for Steve's Stumper.
Steve Stumpers.
I'm just a puzzle guy.
Okay.
All right. So Steve went deep. He said he wanted to use some of the oldest cards he could find. I was expecting a Goyf. I don't think we got one.
That's too new school. That's Ice Age. That's like 2 years into Magic.
And also, like, I feel like you can't stump Jeremy with a Goyf question. Like,
That's
you
right.
wrote the book on the thing.
That's right. I've thrown 50 power Goyfs at people's head before with the fling or something. I don't even remember what the card was.
So here's your question. Abraham and Noah are both at 3 life when Abraham attacks with 2 Llanowar elves and a Thicket Basilisk, then casts Camouflage before blockers are declared. Noah responds by casting Blaze of Glory, targeting his Sarah Angel. Then says he'll block 2 creatures with it so the angel can hopefully survive to attack back for the win. Abraham thinks Noah has to block all 3 creatures with the angel, but Noah insists he can choose to only block 2 of them. Who is right?
Okay, good question, Steve. First of all, great biblical references there with Noah and Abraham. So I guess that makes me Methuselah answering. So I also found really funny how camouflage is totally different with the Oracle text than how it is printed. And I think because the original cards, your attackers went face down, you mix them up. But I think because Morph came along, they had to like not do that because face down actually means something now.
Yeah.
And so from reading it, so it looks like, before he casts Blaze of Glory, he loses 2/3 of the time because he has to just guess and he can only block one. And so unless he blocks the Basilisk, he's going to die because he'll take 3. And so I understand why he casts Blaze of Glory. From reading the Oracle text on camouflage, nicely provided by Steve, it sounds like, and I might be reading too much into this, and I definitely don't know for sure, although I have cast camouflage in my life. It looks like creatures that can block additional creatures may be put into additional piles to get shuffled around. And so you don't have to. So I think it's legal for Noah to put his Staring Angel after Blaze of Glory into 2 piles. And then, he's still 2 and 3 of the time, it'll be blocking a Basilisk and die. But that's okay. It means he's not dead. And then one of the 3 times that the Staring Angel lives, you take 2 and you attack for the win. So I think Noah is correct.
Ding, 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 ding. Jeremy is correct. 1 for the books. Never heard of most of these cards.
Oh, man, pick a Basilisk. I thought, this is the best thing ever. How could they print this right next to Lure? What were they thinking?
No, Steve says Noah is right. Camouflage replaces the normal blocking rules, and blocking requirements like Blaze of Glories aren't considered.
Nice. I like it.
Very nice. You passed the test. You didn't get stumped by Steve. It's a hard thing to do. We've only got 8 minutes left, and I promised to go out on a story, Jeremy. So why don't you give me a story with the time we got left?
All right. So last one I have, I'm fairly sure I haven't told this one. This is what kind of really sparked my competitive drive and also made me love graveyard decks and kind of led to me, being Living Death and Lurgoyf and all the rest. So picture it, September 1997. I had just been on vacation with my family out to the West Coast. So we lived in Toronto. So this was really my first visit out to the West Coast. We did Vancouver and Seattle.
Nice.
They just did World Championships in Seattle and actually got to catch a little bit of it. So that was cool. But I got back and Grand Prix Toronto was happening. And I missed the main event because we got back kind of like middle of the day on the Saturday when the Grand Prix was starting. But I saw they had a D2 PTQ. So I decided to run that with a friend of mine. And the format was Mirage Block Constructed.
Cool.
And I wasn't prepared because I just come back from vacation. So I hadn't tested this format at all. Mirage Block Constructed is a little bit arcane. And so I did, what at the time was very unusual. I looked up a deck on the internet in 1997. The internet was still held together with baling wire and duct tape back then. But, there's a site, the Magic Dojo, the original Magic strategy site. And so I looked on there because there had been some Mirage Block Constructed events and it seemed to be 3 big decks. And I went with the mono red one. It's like, well, I don't know this format, so play the red cards. That sounds like a good idea. So it's mostly terrible creatures, like 3/3 must attack each turn for 3, 4/4 haste hits you for 4, lava hounds. But this was constructed too. But that's what you had back then. You had terrible creatures. But a bunch of burn. The burn was pretty good. And so I'm doing pretty well. I have 1 round against my later friend, this guy Ed Ito, who was a pro, who was on like the Canadian national team, played in Worlds and all that. Really good guy. He's with I still remember this game in incredible detail for something that happened, 26 years ago. So he's with mono black, I'm with mono red. He's way ahead on board. He's killing all my terrible creatures. And the board state is I have 4 lands and I'm at 2, and he's at 18 with about 6 creatures, and I have 1 creature left. So I'm going to die next turn.
Jeez.
End of his turn, I still remember this sequence. I double incinerate him. So down to 12.
Yeah.
Untap, draw the land that I need. Land, Carvex Torch for 4, down to 8. Sack 4 mountains, double fire blast, you're dead. So 18-2, way behind on board. Burn him for 18 over end of his turn and my turn. He just sat there. I still remember the look on his face. And we didn't know each other that well yet. It was still early on.
Yeah.
Just couldn't believe it. And he just kind of sat there and I'm like, I guess I'll go report the match. And he's just like,
oh no.
And years later, because he played in Toronto, so we played quite frequently. And I recounted this story when we were paired in a round at a local tournament. He's like, that was you. And there was some reason in the back of my head why I kind of hated you, and I didn't remember why.
Oh no.
You bastard. Anyway,
Yeah.
So and from there, I made it into top 8, won the quarterfinals, got into the top 4. Unfortunately, lost the semifinals. This is the tie-in to where I like graveyard decks. One of the other big decks was called Urtog, and you should look up these cards on your own. Urtai's Familiar and Necrotog, which are just god-awful, honestly, by modern standards. The Urtai Familiar would mill you every other turn for 3. It would phase in and out, and when it left play, you would mill for 3. And Necrotog would eat all the creatures and attack for big damage. And so I loved this deck that I was playing against, and he beat me, and then the top 2 got a Pro Tour invite, so I just missed out. So that sparked my competitive fire and led me into a fall and summer of playing Living Death and Lurgoyf decks, and that became kind of my persona online in the Magic space too. And so yeah, it was a fun tournament, and yeah, that really got me going from kind of semi-competitive local tournaments to like, okay, let's be full on PTQ grinders. And had a great college crew that played Magic too, and yeah, those were good times.
You think you're safe at 18, huh? Geez,
That's right. Yeah, burn you out. And, I know you play like red nowadays, but it was the right deck for that day.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's one way to get hooked, is to be like, man, I did this crazy thing, and like, oh, and look at you still talking about it all these years later. 18, damn it! Wow, Jeremy.
So yeah, if you need advice on Mirage Block Constructed, come see me. I got the inside scoop. It's a format all the kids are playing.
Next side event that we do Mirage Block Constructed. I don't think Jeremy shouldn't be allowed to play. I just want to say it now. He sounds
right.
too
good.
Too good. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You've been coming on since the beginning. Always say nice things about it, and I love having you on and talking Magic. So thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure, John. I always love it as well, and love your podcast. Thanks for being a pillar of the community that you are.
Hey, I'm just here to report on what happens in the Gauntlet League. Like I said, this week 1 we got a lot more Magic to go. I wish you luck in the rest of your matches, and maybe we figure out if it is Mom or if it is WOE after all. Like, is this the set to not go on book, or is it a trap to try and go do some crazier things? Who knows?
We shall see.
We shall. And I'll see you probably on the battlefield at some point, my good friend.
I'm sure. Yeah, we got a long series going, so it's pretty even. Gotta keep that going. Gotta get me back for Player of the Year, right?
Then you got me in decathlon too. I mean, that was
that's right.
Yes, I don't forget, Jeremy. You can say, yeah. You this guy. I didn't lose a lot in decathlon, but I lost to Jeremy.
Wily veteran.
All right, man. Well, good luck out there, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Cheers. Thanks, John.
I love talking to Jeremy. Again, I've had him on the show a bunch just because he's a friendly guy. He's personable. He's funny. He's got a lot of great stories. Jeremy's been a while, and he'll talk to me about Magic stuff that I don't even understand because it's before my time. I'm sure Jeremy remembers Damage on the Stack. I don't know. But so happy to have Jeremy come on the show, and so happy to be in Eldraine League. Like, I'm loving this league. I'm happy we're back. Eldraine is, we've been here before, and it's different. It's very different this time. It's not the same Eldraine that we know and love, but hey, it's still Eldraine, and I'm playing it. I'm playing a lot of it. At first, I was worried I wasn't going to like it, but I'm still into it. As we say, we're a week or so in, and I've been playing a good amount of it, actually a lot. And it's aggressive, but I think it's still pretty fun. So get out there, do some drafts, figure out what kind of pack you want to open up, and get ready for week 2 of Arena Gauntlet League Wilds of Eldraine. And I'll see you there. Until then, I hope you get to keep a good 7. Because, man, I won a lot of my games this week just on like bad mana and bad keeps on my opponent's side. I went 4-1. At least 3 of those wins were they had a bad keep or bad mana. So, don't be afraid to mulligan. Mulligan away when you can and find those good cards, but hopefully you get to keep a good 7. And hopefully that shuffler is in your favor, because if it's not, these games going to end quick, and you are going to be very quickly going to have to figure out what that punishment pack is that you want. Know what you want before you start the game, because you might lose, and then you might have to make a quick, tough choice about where you are going to go. And we'll see everybody here next week on the show. Bye, everybody.